Hi, this is King of Review. Find the points of intersection between y equals 9x plus 3 and x squared plus y squared equals 27. One method for solving this problem is to use substitution. We have an equation that solves for y equals 9x plus 3. We're going to substitute 9x plus 3 into the second equation for y, like this. So we have x squared plus y squared equals 27. Notice that I left an open space for y. I'm going to substitute 9x plus 3 in for y by placing it in this parenthesis. Now let's expand this portion. X squared plus 9x plus 3 times 9x plus 3 equals 27. I now have x squared plus, I'll use FOIL to multiply this portion out, 81x squared plus 27x plus 27x plus 9 equals 27. Now let's combine like terms. I have 82x squared plus 54x plus 9 equals 27. I want to get a 0 on one side of the equation, so let's move this 27 over to the left-hand side. I'll subtract 27 on both sides. And now I have 82x squared plus 54x minus 18 equals 0. Now, are there any common factors between these three terms? Yes, 2 is a common factor. So let's factor out the 2. I get 2 times 41x squared plus 27x minus 9 equals 0. Our equation is now in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. When we have an equation in this form, we can use the quadratic equation to solve for x. The quadratic equation is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and this is all divided by 2a. The a, b, and c values come from these numbers here. So in our equation, a equals 41, b equals 27, and c equals negative 9. Let's use these three values and plug them into the quadratic equation. So we get x equals negative 27 plus or minus the square root of 27 squared minus 4 times 41 times negative 9. And this is all divided by 2 times 41. When you simplify, you get negative 27 plus or minus the square root of 2,205, and this is all divided by 82. So we're going to have two values for x. One will be calculated using this plus sign, and the other is calculated using this minus sign. Use your calculator to find x. We get x equals 0.24, and we get x equals negative 0.901. So these are the two x values. These represent the x coordinates of the points of intersection. Now we need to find the y coordinates of the points of intersection. We can do this by plugging the x values into either one of these two equations and solve for y. I'm going to choose this first equation. So I have y equals 9x plus 3. Let's plug in our first x value. F of 0.24 equals 9 times 0.24 plus 3. This equals 5.16. So we have a point of intersection at 0.24, 5.16. This is our first point of intersection. Now let's plug in our second x value, f of negative 0.901. This equals 9 times negative 0.901 plus 3, and this equals negative 5.11. So we have a point of intersection at negative 0.901, negative 5.11. This is our second point of intersection. Letter B is correct. So we solved this equation using substitution, which is solving it algebraically, but you can also graph these two equations and visually see where they intersect. You can use your graphing calculator to do this, or you can plot by hand. I'm going to show you what they look like now. So we have our first equation here, y equals 9x plus 3. We know that this is a line because it's in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So let's plot this. We have our coordinate plane here with our x-axis and our y-axis. Okay, so I'm ready to plot the line now. Our b value is 3. This is the y-intercept, so this is where the line crosses over the y-axis. So 3 is about right here. So I'm putting a point right there. And we have a slope of 9. This is the m value. M equals 9. So this means up 9 over 1. So that's about here. So now I'm going to use these 2 points to fill in our line. So we have our line here. And now let's look at the second equation. X squared plus y squared equals 27. We know that this is a circle because it's in the form x squared plus y squared equals r squared, where r is the radius. We know that this circle has a center at the origin, and we can figure out what the radius is. If r squared equals 27, we can solve for r by taking the square root of both sides, and we find out that r, or the radius, is approximately 5.2. So let's graph this circle. Again, it has a center at the origin, and the radius is about 5.2. So it's going to pass these points here. And now I'll use these points to roughly draw in a circle. So here's our circle. And you can see that the line intersects the circle at 2 points. It intersects somewhere around here and another spot right about here. And this is what we solved for here. We solved for the coordinates of these 2 intersection points. Thanks for watching.